The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. This is program number 833, coming to you on Monday, the 8th of August, 2016. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, the CyberCrimes Bill 2016, Part 1. But before dealing with the topic, a very few short preliminary matters. Firstly, my condolences go out to those families which have suffered recent bereavements. And without elaborating, let me go on to say happy birthday to the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, who celebrates his 70 today, the 8th of August. Well, I want to wish the brother God's richest blessings and guidance on his life, and pray that he would continue to experience good health. Now, the CyberCrimes Bill, and I've cut short other preliminary matters because I want to go into the topic. We have quite a lot to read for you. And this will be part 1 next week, DV. We'll bring you part 2, and I will tell you later on what I propose to do in the 3rd week after this week. The CyberCrimes Bill has been published by the government for public comment. And from what I have observed, it has received quite a lot of comment, both from persons within and outside St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Reading the commentary which has been generated so far in the media on the CyberCrimes Bill, as I have done, I got the impression that it's a different bill that persons were commenting on than the one which I have seen and a copy of which I have in my possession and from which I intend to quote. Because having been acquainted as I have been with the legislation on criminal matters which is enforced in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I am of the firm opinion that there is nothing inherently bad or objectionable about the CyberCrimes Bill 2016. And in the course of this program and next week, I intend to show you that far from being a bad bill, this bill has very many worthy features. So in my opinion, there is nothing to be alarmed about in terms of the CyberCrimes Bill. And I intend to take my time, as I normally do. I don't rush matters, and hope that you will follow me carefully to show you that this bill not only is necessary, but persons who have lawful intentions have nothing to fear from the bill. As I understand it, the bill is a regional model which has been sent in draft to various countries for them to consider, modify if they feel like, and take to Parliament. Now, from published reports, I understand that this bill is in Select Committee of Parliament and that several changes have already been proposed and accepted in and by the Parliamentary Select Committee. I don't know what those changes are. I simply have a copy of the bill as published for public scrutiny. I have not had any discussion on the bill with members of Parliament. So I look forward to hearing and reading what the proposed changes are. But apart from a few matters of tidying up, as far as I'm concerned, even in its unamended form, this is a fit and proper piece of legislation to be passed in this country. Now, you will recall some months ago, the government brought to Parliament a bill called the Parliament Bill, the intention of which was to fine those members of Parliament who are absent from Parliament without excuse. You will also recall that I came on this program. I made some critical comments about that bill, and I recommended to the government that they should shelve that bill, which I believe the government has done because it has not surfaced to go back to Parliament. So that I approached this cybercrimes bill with the same spirit that if in my humble and respectful opinion I found anything objectionable about the cybercrimes bill, I planned, as I normally do, to come on this program and give you my views. And when I give my views, I don't give them from a biased point of view. I give them from the point of view of somebody who cares about the laws of this country. After all, that is why I have been doing this program for 19 years, explaining and commenting on the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines by way of enlightening the public. And you know that if there is something in the legal system on the laws that I do not like, I would come out and say that I don't like this or that, and I would say why. Conversely, if there is something I appreciate about a law, I would do the same thing. I don't criticize for the sake of criticism, and I don't praise for the sake of praise. I have been in the fortunate position as a legal professional of having had to acquaint myself with the laws of this country as the very first responsibility I had as Attorney General when I was appointed in 1987. Because I took office on the 1st of May 1987, meeting a pile of laws drafted by the person who had been appointed as our Law Revision Commissioner, and which it was my duty to take to Parliament as part of the revised laws exercise. So I had no choice but to read and understand every single statute law. I had no choice because as Attorney General, I met the job waiting to be done. And fortunately for me, it gave me an insight into our laws and allowed me to see all our laws in their proper perspective. Now, I'm not saying that I know every law in St. Vincent and Grenadines, far from it. But in that first period of my stewardship as Attorney General, 87, 88, 89, 90, it was my duty to read every single law critically, to propose alterations to Parliament, to have them passed so that we could get a revised edition of the laws published, which was done as the revised edition 1990 in 8 volumes. So when I approached a law which is proposed by Parliament, I approach it from the point of view of comparing it with what it has been drafted to replace and to see how it fits into the general scheme of the existing legislation. I did that with the CyberCrimes Bill. I read the bill, then I went and looked at the Constitution, Section 10, which deals with freedom of expression. And then I went through the Criminal Code, looking for legislation dealing with the spoken word to make a comparative analysis. And what I will do next program, DV, I will take you through the Criminal Code and highlight the many sections of the code which criminalize the spoken word. You see, there are offenses which can be committed by word, offenses which can be committed by deed, and offenses which can be committed by both word and deed. So next week, Monday, Divi, I will highlight existing laws, laws which are already in place and have been in place since the Criminal Code was taken to Parliament by me in 1988, to show you that way back then and long before that, there are certain offenses which you can commit by what you say. And most of those offenses carry penalties involving fines and or imprisonment or both. Our Constitution safeguards the freedom of expression, but our Constitution is careful to say that your freedom of expression doesn't give you the right to say certain things. And our Constitution says that laws can be passed which abridge or curtail or channel the freedom of expression in wider interest. And therefore I want to begin this narrative by reading what our Constitution says about the freedom of expression, so that we can put the Cybercrimes Bill in its constitutional perspective. I want to read you therefore Section 10 of our existing Constitution, which says, "Except with his own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of expression, including freedom to hold opinions without interference, freedom to receive ideas and information without interference, freedom to communicate ideas and information without interference, whether the communication be to the public generally or to any person or class of persons, and the freedom from interference with his correspondence. That was subsection 10, which sets out the general ambit of the freedom of expression. But subsection 2 qualifies the generality of subsection 1. This is what subsection 2 of section 10 of our Constitution states, quote, "Nothing contained in or done under the authority of any law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of this section to the extent that the law in question makes provision A, that is reasonably required in the interests of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, or public health. B, that is reasonably required for the purpose of protecting the reputations and rights and freedoms of other persons or the private lives of persons concerned in legal proceedings, preventing the disclosure of information received in confidence, maintaining the authority and independence of the courts, or regulating the technical administration or the technical operation of telephony, telegraphy, posts, wireless broadcasting, or television. Or C, that imposes restrictions upon public officers that are reasonably required for the proper performance of their functions, and except so far as that provision, or, as the case may be, the thing done under the authority thereof, is shown not to be reasonably justifiable in a democratic society." So that what the Constitution is saying, yes, there is general freedom of expression, but laws can be made or things can be done by those in authority to curtail the freedom of expression if necessary to protect the reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons. So no one person has the absolute freedom to say or do what that person feels like. That is what the Constitution is saying. And therefore, the CyberCrimes Bill has been proposed to deal with what I can call cyber offenses. But this bill is in 4 parts. Part 1 is preliminary, deals with the interpretation. Part 2 creates several offenses, about 16 of them. Part 3 deals with the investigations and procedures. And Part 4 deals with the liability of internet service providers. So the offenses created in the CyberCrimes Bill are found in Part 2. But something is remarkable about these offenses. Almost all of them begin with the words, and let me read you from Clause 3. Clauses 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, sorry, not 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 all begin with the same words. What are those words? All of the clauses I read have the identical words at the beginning of every one, and these are the clauses which create the offenses in the bill. And you know what those words are? A person who intentionally and without lawful excuse or justification Let me repeat those words. A person who intentionally and without lawful excuse or justification does this or does that and does that is guilty of an offense. So that the bill criminalizes behavior only to the extent that those persons who indulge in that sort of behavior do so intentionally and without lawful excuse or justification. So that anyone who is charged for any of these offenses and who can show that they either didn't do the thing intentionally or they had a legal excuse or justification to do what they did, would have nothing to fear, cannot be convicted. And therefore, journalists have nothing to worry about, because if a journalist is charged for violating one of these sections, the journalist's excuse is that this is required as part of a public information exercise. I have a lawful justification for doing what I have done. Now, what the bill does not do, it does not excuse deliberate wrongdoing. So that persons have, in my respectful opinion, nothing to fear from these offenses as set out in the bill, and I speak even without knowing what has been changed. Now, in the said Part 2, which creates the offenses, remember I referred to the phrase or the words, a person who intentionally and without lawful excuse or justification, A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on, commits an offense. And well, the ones that do not have that qualification, namely Clause 9, is referring to previous clauses and referring to persons who had committed an offense under the previous sections. I want to look now, in the few minutes available on this segment, at Clause 16, which apparently has created the most comments. A lot of people have said, oh, Clause 16 is bad, get rid of it. Well, I have read Clause 16 over and over again, and I can't see what the fuss is about, even in its unamended form. Clause 16 deals with harassment utilizing means of electronic communication, and this is what Clause 16 says. 1. A person who uses a computer to cyberbully intentionally or recklessly another person commits an offense. Subsection 2. A person who uses a computer system to disseminate any information, statement, or thing, knowing the same to be false, and who damages the reputation of another person or subjects another person to public ridicule, contempt, hatred, or embarrassment, commits an offense. So you want to tell me that somebody knows something to be false, and this is an ingredient which the prosecution will have to prove in any charge. Because it says a person who uses a computer system to disseminate any information, statement, or image, knowing the same to be false, and who damages the reputation of another person or subjects another person to public ridicule or contempt, hatred, or embarrassment, commits an offense. See, a person who intentionally or recklessly uses a computer system, etc., and so on, commits an offense. So I will continue next week to show you that there is nothing, in my respectful opinion, to be feared about Clause 16. It makes it clear that people don't have the right to do certain things which damage other persons. But I will continue. Before I leave, let me remind those persons who follow Freedom Hall Church of God that Bishop Riley is coming to St. Vincent at the end of this week for a convention next week, and the persons who live in Spring Village and who normally come all the way to Cedars will have their own night. Wednesday the 17th of August, Bishop Riley would be coming to the Spring Village Methodist Church, Methodist School, for a meeting. Wednesday the 17th of August at 7 p.m. But I will tell you more about that next week, Monday evening. So I will continue, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, with the CyberCrimes Bill next week, Monday DV. Until then, may the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You. A look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You. Presented by lawyer panel R. Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.